Okay, so over the course of the past nearly 2 years, the internet has been at war with itself over The Last Jedi. Is the movie good? Is the movie bad? Did it derail the franchise? Did it destroy the fandom? So on and so forth. And many people, myself included, absolutely just dunked on the movie for its poor narrative choices. And here it is nearly 2 years later, and still, my God, poor narrative choices. But that stink, that whole thing, that chapter, that episode is soon to be behind us, which is something that I have been waiting 2 years for almost, for that whole thing to be just gone and wiped away from the memory books, because we're going to have another Star Wars movie, the final movie in the Skywalker saga, to wrap up the storyline. And there's been a lot of commentary that I've seen asking the question, can The Rise of Skywalker, or will The Rise of Skywalker actually be able to save Star Wars? And I think it will, actually. I think it really is going to hit all the points it needs to hit. It's going to check every box it needs to check. And that's something that is going to ultimately be palatable to the probably the most amount of the audience that are going to go see this movie. And considering the fact that just an hour after ticket sales went online, we see reports of this where it sets a new record for most ticket sales in the first hour, and showing here that it actually beat out Avengers Endgame and Avengers Infinity War and The Last Jedi and Rogue One. So this movie is something that people are going to go and see. There was never any question about that. I talked to people last night that were saying, do you think it's going to gross $1 billion? I'm all, yeah, the likelihood of it grossing $2 billion is very high, because this is a movie people are actually anticipated for a number of different reasons. One, if you like The Last Jedi, you want to see how the saga ends. If you hated The Last Jedi, you want to see how the saga ends. Both factions here are going to still be getting the same thing that they want. They're going to see how it ends. Now, their mileage may vary on how much of it they might like, but I think more people are going to like it versus not. And let me tell you why. Because there's a couple different reasons. One, it looks like from the trailer that there's a direct connection to the Clone Wars animated show. And that is a big deal. That's not a small thing. Showing the Dagger of Mortis, if it is the Dagger of Mortis in the trailer that Rey has, that means that they have tied it into the Clone Wars, where they go back and they go, where they had to find a dagger essentially in the unknown regions that can kill Force users, basically kill immortals. That's the point of the dagger, and that's what they might be looking for. And in that shot, well, Rey has it, which means that that's an artifact that's going to be used to take out the Emperor, which is a fascinating connection to the Clone Wars. And a lot of people last night, once they realized that, a lot of fans of that show, which are a lot of diehard fans, all of a sudden their ears perked up like, oh, damn, they're going to be tying it into the Clone Wars TV show. And they loved that. That means, for one, they wanted to tie it into a Filoni creation, and probably they gave a little bit of credence to Dave Filoni, who has very much been a part of Star Wars for quite some time and has molded a lot of people's opinions of it, at least from the Clone Wars TV show. So that's going to be a big factor of it. You look at the final scene, or they look like all the ships are going to go into battle, and you see the ghost from Rebels. Again, another Filoni connection. If this is true, and if that is the actual ship, then Dave Filoni's presence is going to be very much referenced in this movie. And I don't think that is by mistake. I think they're doing that because they know that there is a diehard cadre of fans that they want to appeal to. And I think that's going to be a big factor of it, right? To open it up once again to the mystery and the fantasy and the connectivity of the entire Star Wars universe, especially the Skywalker saga, which is something we've seen unfold now for 42 freaking years. So a lot of people are going to be in on that one, and that's going to help maybe take some people who weren't a fan of The Last Jedi, but were a fan of the Clone Wars, and they're on the more negative side of the fandom, to go, oh, maybe they're paying attention this time to what fans actually want. Oh my God. And that's going to lower their defenses for when they go in to potentially have themselves a good time. What I don't want to see out of this, and this is just me kind of sideballing it here, is the fact I don't want people to go see this movie out of hatred or spite. I really don't, because I think they're going to ruin it for themselves, especially if they find themselves enjoying it and they walk out and they go, oh man, like they have to force themselves to not like it because they went in there with preconceived notions of what it might be. What I hope is that everyone who sees this movie, especially on its opening night and opening weekend, goes with a group of fans that are Star Wars fans, whether they like The Last Jedi or don't like The Last Jedi, and then they can just enjoy it together. These kind of things are always better experienced with a group of actual diehard fans. And I think, again, with the ticket sales being as high as they are, there are people out there that are super excited to see this movie. And so it's not going to tank or flop or bomb or die. It's not going to be Endgame, probably. There's no way it's going to hit 2.7 billion. But if this thing beats The Force Awakens in regards to grossing more than 2.2 billion, then I absolutely believe that there's a lot there that could be happening. Now, other aspects that people aren't really talking about, but they should be talking about here, are all the other ancillary Star Wars products that are going to be on the market by the time the movie comes out, which there are. So let's just kind of dive into this, right? So first up, you have Star Wars Resistance Season 2. That's currently on air, I believe, Sunday nights on Disney XD, and that show has developed a bit of a very diehard fan base coming into its second and final season. And the first season of the show is going to be available to watch on Disney Plus when it launches here in just a couple weeks. So for people who don't know about it, but are going to be getting Disney Plus for The Mandalorian, they're going to be looking for more Star Wars to watch, which is not only Mandalorian, but it's going to be all of Clone Wars, including the lost episodes, hopefully in the correct order to watch everything. And it's going to have Star Wars Rebels, all 4 seasons of that. And it's going to have the first season of Star Wars Resistance, which does tie in directly with the events of The Force Awakens. And it's, again, it's a kid's show, but it's a good kid's show. And it was developed by Dave Filoni. It was created by Filoni. Again, they're very much trying to bring in the TV fan base side of things into this movie in order to get people excited for it. And it's working from what I can see. So you have that. You not only do you have The Mandalorian, which will be right at its season finale, right before this movie comes out. So the week after The Rise of Skywalker drops, the season finale of The Mandalorian drops. So we're already going to be in peak, oh my God, what's going to happen on The Mandalorian? So that's going to keep Star Wars conversation most likely in the positive happening, which is then going to get more people excited to go and see the movie. It's a really solid marketing plan. The Mandalorian, people are hyped. People who hated The Last Jedi, people who hate Disney Star Wars are looking at The Mandalorian and they're like, I want to see this. And again, Filoni's involvement. I'm going to keep invoking Filoni because I do feel that he had a bit more play here than we're being told about. I think he's got a bit more influence than we're being told about. And that's something that I quite like because, again, a lot of fans want Filoni to take over running the franchise, and it does kind of feel like there's a fair amount of it that's all kind of circulating around him as having a lot of influence over where things go. So that is something to consider as well. Not only are you going to have Mandalorian, but you're also going to have Jedi Fallen Order, which is currently looking like it's going to do really, really, really well. Now, this is important for a couple of reasons. One, it's a straight up single player, no microtransaction game that you get to play as Cal Kestis and you get to become a Jedi, and it looks pretty freaking awesome. So there's that. That's going to be, I think it's like a 30-hour experience, a good story from what I've been reading, and the review or the previews that are coming out are pretty high. So people have been speaking very highly of it, and I think it's going to sell really well. Now, compare and contrast that to 2 years ago with Star Wars Battlefront. Star Wars Battlefront 2 came out, and it had the loot box controversy, which really did hurt its online credibility. In fact, so much so that the game did not perform very well sales-wise. And that might have led into The Last Jedi only grossing 1.3 billion. Probably not, again, terrible narrative on the movie, but it could also be the negativity coming off of the Battlefield 2. Or Battlefront 2. So with that now going into its 4th season and the game now getting actual positive praise because of the work DICE has put into it, EA and Disney will be able to market that as being almost a whole new experience, which could then easily go in and sway some people to think that they're back on track, which based upon what I've seen and what I've played of Battlefront 2 now, yeah, it's not, I would say, a wholly different game, but it is a much better game than it was 2 years ago. So you've got that going right out to its season 4, right around the same time as The Rise of Skywalker is coming out, with the Jedi Fallen Order, with Star Wars Resistance Season 2, with The Mandalorian, with Disney Plus, and all the Star Wars movies and all the Star Wars shows. People are going to be talking about Star Wars, which means that if they start going into it and they start watching it again, they get themselves prepared for the final movie, they are then going to be at maximum hype. And going into it, they're probably going to be more inclined to enjoy what they see than not. Now, will there be a group of people out there that are going to actively attempt to sabotage this movie online? Oh yeah, 100%. Like, go read any comment section and you're just going to find a ton of people that are just leaving like negative comments across the board. And that's to be expected at this point. There's been 2 years of backlash on this movie. But what I've been noticing too is that there's also been a massive uptick in content, video content coming out attacking Star Wars, attempting to deride the popularity of the trailer, attempting to attack it as a way to currently subvert it. And look, I'll be honest with you, it's the game on YouTube. Why not attack something that's popular, treat it negatively? It's going to bring more people in. But at the end of the day, a lot of it's just clickbait nonsense based upon theories and rumors and nothing else. Not even taking into account how things actually work in the marketing world and in the industry and things along that, or things in that particular vein. And again, take all that with a grain of salt, right? I watch a few of those videos and I kind of laugh and chuckle because, again, it's all being done for a specific reason. But when you look at the idea of just where things are at for this fall, Lucasfilm learned, in my opinion. They learned. They went to Disney marketing, and they figured out the best possible release strategy for the Rise of Skywalker and all the ancillary content to come around it. Because if that is the case, if not only the Dagger of Mortis connecting it to the Clone Wars, but if it's true that the Emperor is in fact a clone and they go into the Dark Empire comic line, which again is a very popular one from the EU, then that's going to bring in a lot of people who felt that they were kind of left out in the cold when they wanted Disney to adapt the EU, and Disney said, no, we're doing our own canon now. Even though J.J. Abrams has been known with Lawrence Kasdan from The Force Awakens to pull from the EU and bring those elements into the film. So there's a lot there that's actually going really positive for this movie. Not only in regards to just the film itself, attempting to tie in as much as it possibly can, and hopefully organic ways. I'm going to be honest with you about that. I hope nothing feels shoehorned or feels forced. Get it? But I do feel that we are in kind of, I don't want to say a golden age of Star Wars because we're not there yet. But we're definitely on the mend. We're definitely on the up and up. Did Galaxy's Edge kind of fail to perform a little bit? Yeah, it did. It has. And that's a lot of it because Disney they outpriced themselves. And that's how a lot of it is. And they didn't really have a lot of content there. And they shouldn't have opened the land without Rise of the Resistance being an actual thing that you could go and do. That's something they really did hurt themselves on 100%. But then you've also got Solo having having been a box office failure. And that one, look, I've explained that multiple times. Just let me quickly run through it again. Solo opened up on a bad weekend. It went up against Deadpool 2's second weekend. Deadpool opened up with about $88 million or somewhere in the around 88 or 83 to 88 million. The second weekend, it pulled in $43 million, meaning it took $43 million out of what could potentially have gone to Solo. Solo pulled in $88 million. Had it crossed over $100 million, it wouldn't have been seen as a flop. It would have been seen as a movie that was actually successful. Again, a few $1 million really did change the narrative, despite middling, critical reviews, because you can't really sit there and say you don't trust the critics and then use that as an argument about why this movie flopped, which I have seen a lot of people do. It was a bad release schedule for it. It went up against a lot of movies, including even Avengers Infinity War, and that took a lot of money out of the summer box office season. And you can always go look at the numbers yourself, even for this last summer, and you can see that some movies made money and a lot of movies didn't make money. And that has a lot to do with the fact that there's basically like a finite amount of money that goes in to the box office, at least here domestically. So there's so much that's going on with Star Wars and the Rise of Skywalker that I think they're on the right track. I really do. I don't know if it's going to mend the fandom, but I think it's definitely going to give us something that's satisfying enough. And really, that's all J.J. Abrams can do. That's really all J.J. Abrams can do. People who are wanting him to come in there and kind of like magic bullet this thing, it's just not going to be possible. He only has so much he's able to do. And I think he's going to be able to do it. The trailer is going to show us a massive, massive, massive movie with a lot of situations that I can't wait to see more of. It does have a little bit of work to go in regards to the CG, but I think the emotion was there. I think that the style was there, and I think they conveyed well enough what they wanted to do. And it's definitely going to give us an end to this particular saga. Love it or hate it. So look, this is just what I think. Okay, you guys can think entirely differently of me than I do on this, and that's entirely fine. But I really do want to hear your thoughts and your opinions on this one, because I want Star Wars to be great again. I think they're on the right track. I think everything they're doing right now is pretty much on the up and up in order to kind of provide a lot of good content in a way that people are going to be able to see it and therefore rediscover their love of Star Wars. Very similar to how Luke reopened himself to the Force in The Last Jedi before doppelganging himself and then dying for some reason. Again, kind of cool metaphor for the, like, you know, reopening your heart to love sort of thing, but terrible execution, which kind of describes the entirety of The Last Jedi. Yeah, one more dig, had to do it. Sorry, Rian Johnson, you're a fucking hack. But anyway, you guys, let me know your thoughts, your opinions down below. Again, this should be a very interesting comment section, and I look forward to your thoughts. I'll talk to you guys later. Have yourself a fantastic day. May the Force be with you, and peace out.